All right, guys, we should be live. Hello. Welcome to chat number 22 of the month. Only a few left. Thank God. Tonight, though, we are chatting with Kam. Some of you guys may know him. Some of you guys probably don't know him because it's been a little while since you guys had your podcast and you're on YouTube doing stuff. So if you could kind of introduce yourself and where people can support you or follow you if they want to do that, or yeah, just who's Kam?
Um, so yeah, if anyone knows me, it's gonna probably be from me working at Z&G. It was about a year ago that we parted ways, that I parted ways, whatever. But yeah, on YouTube, it's just Kam Bates, Kambas. On Instagram, it's Card Bates, Kardbas. And yeah, I just do card stuff. Like I think most people that you probably talked to this month. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's me pretty much. Started off flipping, went to Z&G Emporium. They went to Indiana. I moved back home, and now I'm at PSA. So
Cool. And we're gonna talk further in depth about all of those things. But I'm curious, where did your love for cards come from? How did you get into cards initially, and then how did you progress to where you are now with cards?
um,
Give us the
a
full story,
a
full
hundred
breakdown.
percent, 100%. Like most people, kind of have the same. Like started as a kid, fell out of it, came back into it. Mine's no different, but really it was just like wanting to emulate my older cousin who I thought was super cool. Um, and he was into cards, so I was into cards. Like he was into Yu-Gi-Oh first, so I was into Yu-Gi-Oh, and then Pokemon, so then I was into Pokemon. I actually don't know which came first, but whatever he was into, I was into. And I remember he was maybe like 3 or 4 years older than me, so I would have been 5 at the time, 6 at the time. And he had a trash bag, like a legitimate large trash bag full of Pokemon cards. And he was like, I don't care about this stuff anymore. Do you want it? And I was like, well, if you don't like it, then I don't like it. Like, what am I going to do with like this trash bag worth it? So which is interesting because if he would have given it to me, the day before, or if he was like, I love cards, do you want this? I would have just been over the moon. Like I would, I just hit a
Yeah.
gold mine or something. But yeah, so it was that really just trying to like be like my older cousin who I thought was super cool. And then it went to the wayside, and again, him and I got back into it in 2013 with Black and White. We played a lot of Black and White together, and then Legendary Treasures came out, so we were just opening Legendary Treasures, just like ripping boxes of it just nonstop. And I just got my first job, so all of my money was going into Legendary Treasures. Really, just like I just couldn't stop opening boxes. It was so fun. Like you'd hit a gold card, and for some reason it was really wacky. So it'd be like one in every 2 boxes you could hit a gold card. I would hit one and then just walk up to the counter, and the card was worth $100, which is kind of what it's been worth until a couple of years ago. It's always been like $100, and I would just go up to the counter and I'd be like, "Do you want to do a straight up trade like this gold card for another box?" And like they would take me up on it because 50% chance I don't hit another one, and then I have to pay to buy another box. So I probably pulled like 10 or 12 of those like full art Reshiram or Zekrom gold cards, and I was like, wait, what if I start grading these things? And I talked to my cousin about it. And this was 2013, so kind of like no one was really doing it too much. Maybe some like super old heads like TCA or Mint or someone. And my cousin was like, "No, that's stupid. Like, if that made sense, like if there was a way to make money doing that, people would already be doing it. Like the card shops would already be doing it. They wouldn't sell you something that could hit a PSA 10." And I was like, "Okay, true. And then we just kind of fell out of it once like the new sets started coming out. And um, 2016 rolled around, and I was still just always looking at Pokemon. Like I was like, there's something here. I know that there's something here. 2016 came around, and I started getting into flipping, mostly just like sealed products that I could find for cheap, like the classic like scalper. But I had no money, so I'd buy like one ETB at a time, and then didn't know how to sell anything. I didn't know how to use eBay correctly. I didn't know how to ship an ETB without paying $35 in shipping.
Yeah.
So I was just losing money. Um, and then a few weeks before COVID started, um, I saw an ETB of Hidden Fates in a vending machine. And I was like, wait, I think that's like a cool set. Like, even though I hadn't opened a pack in probably 5 years, I was like, I think that there's something about that set. Like, I remember hearing someone talk about it. I looked it up. MSRP was 50, and you could sell it for like 70, which after eBay fees and shipping and stuff, you're breaking even or losing a couple bucks. But I was like, oh, like that's it, you know? So I bought the ETB and sold it on Facebook Marketplace and made like $15 profit. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. Like I'm in. And then like the rest is like literally history. It's just, you know, perfect timing right before COVID. And I told myself like, okay, I tried this in 2013. I tried this in 2016. Now I'm trying it again in 2020. Like I really have to go all in this time. And like I really can't just like get confused by shipping. I can't like do any of that. Like I have to really learn how to do this. And yeah, I just went all in. Like every dollar I had just went into it, and you know, paid off dividends. So, and through that I met James, and yeah, the rest is history.
And what were you focusing on when you got back in and doing the flipping stuff at the time to make money? Was it mostly buying sealed and flipping it, or were you buying singles and grading, or just kind of all of the above? And what were you kind of focusing in at the time?
Yeah, it was all of the above. Like there is a period of time where people were really interested, like beginning of COVID, in sealed product. They just didn't really care enough to go get it, maybe, or to like look beyond the Walmart, Target of the world, you know. And Hidden Fates ETBs were maybe like $80 or $90, and tins were like $40 or something. Pretty expensive. But then if you looked at like Game Nerds, they would sell cases of Hidden Fates tins for like $160 or something. It was like $15 a tin, which you could immediately flip and like triple your money. Like it was just available. It was just like sitting on their website. So stuff like that, I would just rip all of it because I would kind of calculate in my mind, like, you know, if the pull rates are this and like these cards are worth this, just do some like napkin math, and there's like a 98% chance that you make money. And if not, you just opened like, you know, 300 packs of cards and you had a pretty good time, and it cost you like $20, you know, after everything was said and done. So a lot of stuff, it would just be like, yeah, walking into a Walmart, like when you're doing something else, just seeing like a complete restock, and like no one was really touching stuff for some reason, at least in my area, and then just taking all of it and just being like the scumbag. And that was fine. It just became competitive. So then I just started grading stuff like really heavily. I was like that dude that would just be like spam refreshing eBay, legitimately like 6 hours a day, like doing my rounds of like eBay, Mercari, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, just trying to find anything that could pop up and be like a worthwhile purchase. So yeah, it ended up being grading after not very long.
And was that just sourcing collections on those different platforms and seeing what's gradable and sending those in and selling the rest? Or
so that was like certainly the most fun, but it really only ever happened to me like 3 times. There were a lot of people in my area that I think maybe didn't care about, you know, hitting up the Targets and Walmarts, and they were more focused on the buying collections side. So I really only ever did like 3 or 4 local deals, and they all ended up being like really big. One of them was like a sealed case of the Ancient Mew promos.
Oh, wow.
That like went to you know, the movie theaters. And, like this kid just got them like 20 years ago, and he opened it and it took out like, I don't know, 20 promos for him and his cousin or something to play with. And then, you know, the other 500 something were still in the case. So I just bought those off of him. It's like that was huge. But really it just kind of became like pretty easy, honestly. Like at least at the time, it was so hard to lose. It was so easy to make money. You could buy Hidden Fates, you know, stained glass bird promos for $10 or less, and in a PSA 10 they were $180. So like, why was no one buying 1,000 of these at a time? You know, it's different now. Like people will do that all day. Like you'll see that on Instagram. If that ratio were still there, people would be, I have $100,000 budget for stained glass birds. People wouldn't, that would be something that you would expect to see. So it was mostly just kind of like looking for those after a while, because the local stuff was pretty tough for me to find.
Okay.
Outside of the ancient muse, but it just became like, what's a card that's easy to grade that you can just buy 100 of and just every submission send 10 out and just kind of like have your rolling inventory.
Okay. And at what point in that process were you watching YouTube stuff? Is that how you became aware of like James and Z&G and stuff, or how did that connection eventually happen?
Yeah, so like I said, I kind of refused to let myself give up this time, like I will get results. And so I was looking up like how to flip Pokemon cards, like, which now you could probably scroll through hundreds of pages of people that are like doing, buyer POVs, seller POVs, not even that, just like how to actually flip cards. Like there's so many, there's an insane amount of people making content on this stuff. When I was looking it up, like you had SM Pratt, who wasn't talking about that, but he was talking about like general card market stuff, or like things that were cool in cards. But that wasn't helpful for what I was trying to do, which is like, how do I ship a card? Like what do I, how do I title a card? How do I do any of this? Like any of that. And really, there were only two people that were making videos that were helpful, and that was Old School Pokemon and James. So, and even then, James was more focused on kind of like the box breaks that he was doing at the time, like the Wizards of the Coast box breaks. So even that wasn't super helpful. It was really interesting. Same with like SM Pratt and TCA Gaming were making really interesting videos. But Old School Pokemon was like the only person who was like, here's how to buy stamps, like here's how to use a plain white envelope. Here's how you should like tape your card inside of a top loader, inside of a piece of paper, inside of a plain white envelope. So that's really kind of like how that started. And, James did make some videos that were really helpful. And that's kind of like how that connection was made. And I started buying some packs from him back when like vintage, like I bought like a rocket pack off of him for like $150 or something, like first edition on Wade Team Rocket. And I bought some of those. I bought some base set packs off of him, and then I traded him from the Ancient Mew deal I was talking about. I traded him like 50 sealed Ancient Mews for the first edition Neo Genesis pack and the empty box that it came in. And then so that was like, I don't know, we just started talking naturally, and that's really where that connection was made, was me giving him a bunch of Ancient Mews for what ended up being a light pack.
Okay. Were you hired then? Was he still finishing up his prior venture before the auctioning when you were hired? Were you helping with that, or did you get hired in during his like start on eBay consignments, like doing his own thing?
So yeah, he was a contractor for Graded Gem, and he was doing that. That was like a really heavy front load. It's like him and his wife like hand submitting just incredible amounts of cards, and then like nothing when PSA like shut down for a bit during COVID. And then an incredible backload. And the back end I think is much more difficult than the front end. I've submitted a lot of cards. I even submitted a lot of cards at Z&G. I think it's just a lot more difficult to parse through a 500 card order and package it up and ship it out, So once that stuff started coming back from PSA after, a year or a year and a half or however long it was, I don't know. James needed help, like they needed help pretty bad. Like they just had their first kid, and I think that she was like sick a bunch, and this, pretty tough time. So that had kind of all started coming back. It was a lot to handle. And I think like right at the same time, James was trying to like start up consignment, because like, I don't know if anyone remembers, but that was kind of just like a trend that was happening. Is every YouTuber was just doing consignment. Like, you would just send them stuff and they would just sell it and take 20%. Um, Rusty was doing it, SM Pratt was doing it, James was doing it. I think Dan at the same time was doing it. Rusty, I don't know if I already mentioned Rusty. Like, a lot of YouTubers were just like, yeah, I'll take your cards and take 20%. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
And so I think that he kind of jumped in on that, and it was pretty small. But really, the main issue was the insane amount of cards that were coming back from PSA, or that were at least like scheduled to start coming back from PSA. And yeah, that's kind of when he flagged that he needed help. So.
And then you just DM'd him, and the rest was history, or?
I don't know. We had like started kind of talking, not super often, but like most days we would kind of just talk about something Pokemon related or something. And I was at work, and at that point, I was flipping enough cards that I was kind of on the schedule at my grocery store job, like my overnight stocking shelves job, like 2 days a week. And then once every other week or so, I would just call out because I didn't want to go in. So I was working like a day and a half a week. And I could have just quit, I think, and been fine financially. I just liked going in, but it's getting to the point where I was like, I think I just want to quit and like bite the bullet. Like, I think I'm pretty fed up with it. And I was at work one day, and James messaged and said like, hey, how soon could you hypothetically get to Arizona if needed? And I was like, I could leave right now in the middle of my shift. Like, if there's a flight, like, I'm on it. Like, no worries. And he's like, okay, that's good to know. I don't think it needs to be that urgent, but let me think on this. And then, I think just a few days later, me and my girlfriend were on a plane and flew out just to help a little bit. I think a bunch of graded gem stuff that come back kind of all at once, and I think that they were just kind of like getting back from the hospital with their daughter, and it just was like a good time for someone to be there and help, I think. And yeah, we were there for like a weekend or a few days. I really don't know. And flew back, and it was just kind of like a fun thing. Like, whoa, this guy from YouTube I watch is like, he's like a real person, and I'm like helping him do this like Pokemon stuff. Like, this is so sick. And I just like didn't really think anything more of it. And then I think just like a few weeks later, maybe even just like a couple weeks later, kind of got like the official job offer of, you were helpful. Do you want to move to Arizona now and help more? And I was like, yeah, sure. And really, consignment was like not really like the front of my mind. It was mostly just all of the PSA submissions that were coming back that needed handled.
Okay. How did your position there evolve? How long were you there for?
I was there for like 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
So if you started kind of helping out with the graded gem stuff, how did that position then evolve after that kind of slowed down and he kind of went 100% into the eBay consignments? Yeah, give us a evolution of your work there. Like, what were you in charge of, and how did that change over time?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I showed up, he had just kind of started doing consignment. Again, it was just kind of a trend at the time, and I think he wanted it to be more than that. So, I mean, I remember I brought stuff on the flight when I visited the first time. That was just, I remember telling my friend, or maybe it was even my girlfriend, like, I'm just kind of giving him stuff like to help out. Like, I could make more money selling this myself, because at the time it was 20%, I think. I could sell it myself and get hit. At the time, it was like 11% eBay fees. That's gone up now. But it's just, to support the cause, like, he's flying me out, and, but it was a pretty small thing. And like, I don't remember the numbers exactly, but I do know we had kind of like historical data on everything that we've sold, something that you kind of want to have. And like one of the first weeks that I started working, I looked, and consignment that week was, I think it was like 26 or like 39 cards or something. And like 20 of them were mine, right? So like half of our sales are coming from me, and we only had like 15 or 20 other cards that week. So that's like a really small thing, and definitely not enough to sustain, a full-time employee with benefits and him and his family and stuff. Like that's pretty tough. So it was mostly, thankfully, like there's just so much graded gem stuff that kind of bought us time, and it also, you could message the customer from graded gem and be like, hey, your cards are here, what's your address, we can ship it back. Which a lot of these submissions have been out for over a year at this point, so you have to ask for addresses. Like you can't just ship it back to whatever address they give you initially, because people move and die and stuff. So it was, hey, what's your address? Also, if you want to, you could sell it through consignment. Here's our fees, let us know. And so that kind of helped a lot in like building up a little base. But yeah, so that's what it was initially, was just doing graded gem and very small consignment stuff. In hindsight, it's really funny, kind of like what our operation looked like at the time compared to what it was when I left, and what I'm sure it is now is probably even better. Yeah, so I mean, kind of just one day, James was doing all of the consignment stuff. He was listing everything. He was, photographing everything. He was kind of storing and shipping everything. And then one day, I was just, I don't know, like we didn't really talk about it, I don't think. I just started doing the consignment stuff, and he started fulfilling the graded gem orders. And then eventually, not too soon after that, the graded gem returns started drying up, and we just had to go full time into consignment. And my position was initially just scanning cards, listing cards, doing everything. Like him and I just kind of both had the same tasks, really. I think that he would ship mostly, and I would kind of create the listings for stuff. And eventually, that became just too much for the two of us, and we had to hire someone, and hired someone who was remote. So there were 3 people in the office, someone remote. And then it really kind of became, my duty was like titling everything, and then eventually creating like a automatic listing type thing. So you would just type in the title, and like the listing would more or less populate on its own. And that's just kind of where it was for quite a while, until the last little bit. I started taking over the fixed price side of stuff once PSA Vault was eBay Vault was a thing, and you could get like 0% sales, commission through it, and pretty crazy time. So we started selling through that and charging like a couple percent, and then really kind of leaning into that and trying to like build a framework for that. Like, how can we do buy it now? Like, how can it work? Once this 0% goes away, what can we do with this? So that's what I was focused on, as well as I was doing all of our Consignment Plus, which is anytime someone would submit raw cards, I would submit them to PSA, and then when they come back, sell them, and then take out the grading fees from the payout. So it's super easy for customers to use. It was insanely easy. It's too easy, honestly. And that's kind of where it ended at Z&G. That's that was generally my day to day, was just shipping a ton of stuff and submitting a ton of stuff to PSA. And
So as the operation grew, you kind of moved into each new thing that you guys added to like kind of optimize that, and then you kind of backfilled the stuff that you were leaving, essentially.
Yeah, that was something that I really liked doing, was kind of like operation improvements, and just there's like corporate terms and everything, but again, thinking back to Z&G, like when I first got there and when we first started doing consignment, it was just like my mouth was like watering. Like it was just so like exciting. Like everything kind of sucked, like everything had room for improvement, like everything. So any piece that you wanted to hit, like you could really improve it like so significantly, and it was a really satisfying, like rewarding experience. You could go from scanning one card at a time to 4 cards at a time. You could, and even then, there's more improvements within like the scanning and like how images are working and stuff. And that was really satisfying. You could store cards differently and make it, twice as fast or 3 times as fast, like pull orders. So that was stuff that I was really excited about. And then kind of, for example, with titling, it went from, hand titling every single card to still hand titling, but, using like this more automated process. And once that worked and once that was good, it was kind of, like handed off to the titling guy now. Yeah, that was something that I really enjoyed at CMG.
Nice. We have a couple questions before we can move into my next questions from Fat Belly Collects. He's wondering if you were paid a commission or wage at CMG.
I was paid a full-blown salary.
Oh,
yeah,
very nice.
With some benefits.
This is an interesting question. So, how did your girlfriend and you feel just kind of packing up and leaving that fast, like that fast of a turnaround? How was that? How was that received by everyone in your family and stuff when you did that in just a few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty tricky, right? Like, so honestly, the first thing was kind of telling my roommates, like, hey, I'm gonna leave. Here's some money that makes up for my absence. So you don't have to be mad financially. The lease was already ending in a couple months, so just had to pay them a couple months worth of, my rent, so that they couldn't be too upset about it. But they were super supportive, and like, they were just entering, professional jobs. So, and they knew that this was something that I loved. And so they were like, you don't even have to pay us. Like, don't worry about it. This is something that like you're super passionate about. Like, don't let a couple months of rent, ruin you. And it didn't. So took care of them. But my family was, again, pretty supportive. And I think to me, my girlfriend, my family, like everyone, it was more like, let me move to Arizona and try this for a year. And then when it doesn't work, I'll move back. There was kind of not really a lot of thought of if it does work. It was just like, in a year, when this doesn't work, I'll head back and my family will still be here and it'll be all good. And that was kind of the vibe that I got from a lot of my family. And I think that maybe it's because that was the vibe that I was kind of giving off. Just because, consignment wasn't huge at the time. And I knew that it could grow and be big, but yeah, I don't know. It was tough. Yeah, but I mean, I come from a very supportive family who, they knew that I was into it. My girlfriend, she was actively, looking at schools at the time. Like, where does she want to go to college? Like, what's she doing there? And she ended up just going to the university that was in Flagstaff. So, and now she's graduating from there. She's finishing a remote, so she'll be graduating in like a couple weeks. So it's come full circle. Yeah, so it was a pretty good opportunity, and it wasn't a huge city or town or anything. It was just for what she needed, which was full time in university. So she has that, and then if she wants like a part time job, it's a college town. Like, there's 100 of them. She can do any of them. So like that worked pretty well, and I don't know, just a couple of kids in love, and we made it work, right? So
Yeah.
it was a pretty scary move, but we were down to give it a shot again, because the longest we're going to be there is for a year, right? It's going to be a year, and then we're going to head back when graded gem is done, and we're kind of like sitting on our hands, and then the year is up, and I moved back. And that was something that honestly, like, I talked to James and Lauren about, where I was like, this is when the offer was first kind of made, which I think that he was just desperate for help. I was like, guys, it's tough. Like, I'm going to be bringing like my girlfriend to a new state, right? Like we're going to be just a couple of poor kids. Like, how are we going to make this work? And, graded gem is only so long, like it'll be done at some point. And I was like, you're good for a year, like if you come here, like you're taken care of for a year, which was something that was like, as soon as they said that, like I was all in, right? Like, I just can't, move to this new state and me and my girlfriend like starve to death. And, I didn't think that was going to happen. Right. But like, I needed some sort of like, security in that. And then I was all in. So,
Yeah. Whose idea was it to start a podcast when you were there? The famous Never Punish podcast.
I don't remember actually. I really don't remember. I don't even know how it came up. I think a lot of it was just, I don't know. That classic, like, two friends that think that they're like the funniest people on earth, and then
Yeah.
like, we should write a movie together or something. I think it was very much like, dude, we got to do a podcast, just because like James and I would, at the time the office was upstairs in their house. Sorry if this is a trade secret, but we would just like be up in the attic basically just for 8 hours talking just nonstop, just 8 hours straight. And it's like, why not, once per Friday, just carve out 30 minutes and just like, talk, because we do it for like 40 hours a week. Why not turn the camera on for a little bit of it? And it's, content. Like, we both come from, he was making videos, I was making videos. We stopped making videos almost completely to do this consignment stuff. So how do we get something out there? And I think that was what we landed on. But yeah, I have no idea whose idea it was. No clue.
Yeah, it was great. I always look forward to it. Was it every Friday or every other Friday? It was.
I think it was supposed to be every Friday, and then
Yeah.
it got too busy, so then it was like every other Friday.
Yeah, I always look forward to it. It was great. It was very entertaining. So you were at Z&G for 2.5 years ish, and then you moved on from there after they moved physically. They moved physically, and then you took a different position. Can you tell us a little bit, as much as you can? Obviously, don't divulge anything you can't. But can you give us an idea of what you're doing now and your current role at your new company?
Yeah. So, to kind of back it up, James came to me one day and was like, "Hey, so we're thinking of moving to Indiana." And I was like, "Whoa, that's a big move." He's like, "Do you want to come with us?" And I was like, "Whoa, that's a kind of like out of nowhere thing. So let me think on it." And I went to my girlfriend and we talked about it. And long story short, we talked about it for probably 200 hours, trying to think like, do we want to go to Indiana? And James and Lauren were extremely like courteous with it, like literally zero negative things to say about them. They even like flew us out to Indianapolis for a few days just to see if we liked the area, and we did actually. So kind of while I was in Indiana, we both kind of just thought like, okay, so we're just gonna do this, right? Like, we're just gonna move to Indiana. Like, that's crazy. Like, how did this happen? And we flew back and we talked about it more and more. And again, it was hundreds of hours. We talked about like, do we want to move to Indiana or not? And we really just settled on, we want to choose where we want to move next. And we were being given the choice if we wanted to move there or not, but it wasn't a place that we had chosen ourselves. Like, there were other places that we want to look at in our futures. And so that was really the only reason that we didn't go with, was just like this principle that we had kind of made up of like, why is this place actually really nice? Why do we like the people a lot? Why do we, there's like nothing negative that we could really think about it. like, why doesn't it feel right? And I think it was just because we didn't choose it.
Yeah.
So we handshaked and went our separate ways, but there was still maybe like a few week period, I don't know how long it was, where the Z&G was kind of like closing up and we were still fulfilling orders and we weren't like taking stuff in or whatever it was. I can't remember. And I was like, okay, well now I need to find a job, right? Like, what am I doing? Like, are we staying in Flagstaff? I don't think so. Like, we moved to Flagstaff for this company, and a place that we do want to live in is back home, in the Pacific Northwest. So let's look at that. And so I looked at, a few places like PWCC, which is now Fanatics, which is like 20 minutes from where I lived before. And I applied to like, within that week, kind of everywhere, like all Rare Candy, PWCC, eBay, TCG Player, like everywhere. ComC in Tacoma, Washington, and ComC and TCG Player got back to me about essentially like ComC was just like the guy picking orders, and TCG Player was like a remote customer care position. That was like whatever, like 15 an hour.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I need a job. So I accepted both of them and was like, we'll see which one I actually choose, and I'll just like ghost the other one. But I was like, I don't know, like I've done so much with Z&G and like there's got to be something better. And then PSA announced that they had acquired the eBay vault, or like they had announced that like they were like, I think maybe it had already been announced, but they were announcing that they were like, going to start accepting submissions or something. And I had applied to PSA as well for a couple jobs, and I heard back on like a pricing results specialist. So kind of just whoever decides if you get upcharged or not, So part of the job, I think, is just like flipping a coin, maybe. And so I was talking with them about that, and I then, why is James texting me? I then DM'd Nat Turner, the owner, of Collectors, whatever, the CEO of Collectors, owner of PSA, and I just cold DM'd him, and I was like, hey, I don't really know what you guys are planning with, the PSA vault, but I'm sure I can help. Like, I don't really know what my qualifications really are at this point, but I know that whatever you pay me, like I'll make you more than that, right? Like, it was just a cold DM. It wasn't very long. It was just like, hire me and it's a good choice to that. And it worked, right? He responded and was like, cool, send me your resume. So I emailed him my resume, and then he got me in touch with whoever just like the general manager of the vault was at the time. And yeah, within like no time at all, like within a week, I was interviewing for that and had been offered a job at the PSA vault. So what I'm doing now is, if you ever send something to the PSA vault and you want it sold on eBay, it's a pretty seamless thing, to be honest. I'm not trying to like gas up my own product. I don't really care if you use it or not, or if you use TCA or James or whatever you do with your cards. But if you do want to talk to someone about it, if you have like an issue with the title or the listing, or if you have a question on your payout or anything about it, there's like a 50% chance that you talk to me, and that's only because we just hired another one of me. So a month ago there was a 100% chance you were going to talk to me about it. Same with like if you buy something from the PSA vault and you have any question about it, like there was a 100% chance I was going to be reading that message. But there was a lot of messages, so we had to hire people. So yeah, that's really what I'm doing now. Is I just trying to grow the PSA vault on eBay. That's really my entire focus.
Okay. So one thing that we kind of touched on before we started was the fact that you did some flipping and stuff prior to taking the job with ZNG. And I think at ZNG we're also doing some flipping. But then it sounds like at PSA there are potentially some limitations to being able to do the flipping. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to work at PSA and trying to flip on the side, or if it's even possible?
Yeah. So at Z&G, the limitation of flipping my own stuff was I didn't want to, because I was handling cards like physically 8 hours a day, and I didn't want to like go home and handle more cards, even though it would probably have been like the easiest money I've ever made. I would get like little like inspirational, hits where I'm like, I'm just going to start flipping cards again. And I would do that for like a month, and I'd get like one PSA return back or one CGC return back, and I'd sell through it. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that again in like 6 months. Like that was kind of like, it just wasn't satisfying getting PSA returns back anymore. It wasn't satisfying, doing kind of any of the process. The limitation at PSA is kind of muddy a little bit, but really you just can't be stupid. I asked for clarification from a couple of my managers and some people that were pretty high up in the company, and just some of like my coworkers as well. Like, I like to flip cards. Like, I do like doing this. How can I do this? And the answer really is just like, don't be stupid. Don't submit 300 cards at a time. Like, don't submit 100 copies of stained glass birds at a time. Like, and really, what all I'm doing at this point, and I got the okay from everyone that I talked to on this, is like, I'm just buying cards to sell them so that I can buy more cards so that I can sell them. And I'm probably never going to profit on any of it, because I'm also buying cards that are like sitting on my shelf, is that okay? And it's like, yeah, that's fine. Like, you can do that. Just don't like, you can't be a dealer. You can't be like setting up at shows. You can't be, doing all these things. But like, they want people using the service, right? So they want you grading, and like they want you selling some stuff, and they want you, knowing how the vault works, how PSA works, so that you can explain it to customers and all that stuff. And they also want you to use the service because it's, they want collectors to work at collectors, right? Like, that's kind of the whole vibe, right? Like, they want you to care about, the customer and the experience and all that stuff. So all that to say, yeah, there's rules on it. I think it'd be pretty silly to try and like circumvent the rules. I just do what I did before working at ZNG, which is just monthly submissions at the beginning of the month. I just take 20 or 30 cards, whatever it is, and send them off. And when I get them back, I probably keep 5 and sell the rest, and use that to buy more cards that I want, and rinse and repeat. So that's the limitation as far as it's been explained to me. And that's, what I've been very open about what I do with. I mean, I've told Nat what I do, and he seems cool with it. Like, he said it's cool. So if he said it's cool, I'm cool.
Sounds good. Kai had a question. Was he the best consigner?
Dude, Kai was annoying. Kai submitted junk. Kai still submits junk. I don't know how this guy still like affords rent, because he lives in Australia, where it's super expensive too. So I don't know how this guy has like a roof over his head. This guy spends like $10,000 on Dragon Ball trash. He also, much love to Kai, but more hate to Kai than love. So.
Oh man! All right, let's go through chat and see who's here. So we have Pokemage, we got E Unit, Gym Leader Pepe, Kai, of course, Alexis, who I think is your other half.
Yeah.
Thrifty, Jodo, Son of a Merc, Vitalik, Fat Belly Collects, and Grimer. Bunch of awesome people here.
Nice.
Oh, and Boondock. Almost forgot. Kai said fair. So do you live now in California? Because that's where PSA is, right?
So PSA has some offices, like headquarters is in California, then they have an office in New Jersey. and then Tokyo and some other places. I just work fully remote. I'm back in Oregon, so that's where I'm at for now. If the company wants me somewhere, maybe I'll go there. Wouldn't mind living in California. So
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was curious if you get any opportunities to go to any of the events, because they obviously have booths at most of the collecticons and stuff like that. Do you get a chance to go to any of those things um, over there in the West Coast? And if you do you get to go be in the PSA booth, or is that a whole different team?
so I do have some opportunities. I love I love a free flight. I think that's how James got me to work at Z&G, was giving me a free flight to Arizona to help him out. Um, yeah, so I'll be at the National in Chicago in July. I'll be working the PSA Vault booth because I love going to these events. I went to some events for Z&G. I went to a few collecticons. Um, it was a good time. So yeah, I'll be working the booth, taking in people's cards so that they could have them vaulted or sold or whatever they want with it.
Cool.
Yeah, my first event for PSA. So
Mason is here. Oh my God, Cam. Yes,
hi,
you guys.
Mason.
If you have any questions for Cam, put it in the chat. We would very much appreciate it. So did you expect, when you first started with Z&G, could you, how do I phrase this? Did you foresee that it would be this popular and it would grow this fast and be this crazy for them on eBay? Or what was the outlook in the beginning versus partway in versus where they were at when you left?
Yeah, I mean, James and I think we're on the same page. We wanted to. No one was really kind of like providing a good service, it felt like, which people were providing fine services. And this isn't his words, like these are kind of like my feelings at the time. And again, like Rusty, for example, is like my number one Pokemon person. Like I love Rusty. Um, and like he would show off like your card on a video and then just, list it on eBay, and that was fine. Um, and kind of same with like SM Pratt, like all these people that were doing like the consent, like the YouTuber consignment stuff. And it kind of felt like, what if someone took this like very seriously and this was like their business, and like nothing else was the business, just consignment? Like, what does that look like? And then, if you looked at like a massive consigner like Probstein, or DC Sports, or PWCC, like these were all sports card companies that also sold Pokemon, like when someone sent them Pokemon. And like they had huge amounts of market share because like no one was just the Pokemon consigner. And so kind of like realizing that, and kind of, thinking like, does that even matter? Does it matter if you're a Pokemon consigner versus a sports card consigner? Like, does that matter at all? Or like, are people just going to use Probstein for the rest of time? But if it does matter, there's huge potential here. And my belief was and is that it does matter, right? Like you want cards to be listed with correct titles, that, titles that aren't just read off of a PSA label where it says 1999 Pokemon game. That's never gonna, people aren't gonna find that the way that they need to. So kind of clicking into this idea of like, Probstein and DC Sports and PWCC are massive companies. If we could just get some of that, because we like care about what we're listing and we're trying to like make really high quality listings with really great titles that, are just done the right way, I think that something big can happen here, and then it did. So that much like I could see, once Graded Gem kind of started drying up a bit. but again, when I first got there, I was like, yeah, this is just going to be dead in like 9 to 12 months, and I'm just going to dip out. Like, it was a good time, fun little story to talk about.
Yeah.
About living in Arizona for almost a year. I mean, did I see it like at the level that it is now? I mean, it kind of feels like the same, except everything is like 3 times as expensive or more. So like, I mean, I don't know like what it looks like over there now, but I mean, hit me in the head with a sledgehammer, man. I just don't understand how like illustration rares for like a Flamingo is $250 or something. Like,
Yeah.
I'm taking psychotic pills, like I'm losing my mind. Like, my cousin likes flamingos, and I was like, what if I just buy her PSA 10 Flamingo illustration rare? That's a card no one cares about. Oh, it's $200. Like, what are we doing? Are we smoking crack? Like, we're losing our minds. So,
Yeah.
And the more that a card sells for, the better for consigners and for consignees and for everyone really, except maybe the buyer. I don't. Again, much love to the Flamingo loving community, but I don't know who spent $200 on that. So
Yeah.
that I could never have seen. I don't. And then vintage going up makes sense. Like, it always goes up and hits insane prices. But the modern illustration rares being like hundreds of dollars, or Magikarp was like whatever it was.
Yeah.
I know,
Magikarp's crazy.
insane. I could never have imagined legitimately any of that. So
Yeah. Question from Alexis: what about the National are you most excited about?
she could just come in and ask me this. Honestly, I'm just excited to like. If anyone is going, I'm just excited to meet people again. I love interacting with people in person. It's like my favorite thing. I love talking with people. So hopefully people that I know are going. I know it's mostly like a sports card thing. I know that like not a ton of Pokemon people end up going. I think. I don't know. I've never been to the National. I'm also just like a pretty big moment checklisty type of guy. Like, I love seeing the Grand Canyon and just checking it off my list, right? And like going to the National is just like something to check off my list, right? So that's something that's going to be a really cool feeling. It's like going to like the Super Bowl for this career path, this hobby, this industry. So that'll be exciting. But really, it's meeting people and talking to people and meeting new people. It's all a good time.
Nice. Has it been full remote like the whole way? Like, have you met in person anyone from PSA from your company yet?
Not a single time. Fully remote.
Yeah, I haven't either. I've worked in my company for 3 years now, and I haven't met a single person.
Yeah, so I'll be meeting people in Chicago, but that'll be the first time, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they were even just at like, there's like a PSA event at my local card shop that I didn't know about until the day it was happening, and I was busy. And it's like, I could have met people that I work with. They were like 3 miles away from me. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting working remote. I hop on little like one-on-ones with my manager that are scheduled for 30 minutes, and it's like an hour and a half later, and I'm like, I can't stop talking. Like, I just want to like keep this going. So now we have hour-long one-on-ones because I just can't stop. Yeah.
So at your current position, what are some of your biggest not frustrations, but like hurdles? Like, when, because it sounds like you take on a lot of the questions and stuff from customers for their vault items. I know a lot of that can be controlled by the customer, so like prices and stuff like that, I think, can be directly controlled by them. But what are some of like the most popular requests that you get, or so do you have a particular frustrating moment, or since you deal with people all day?
I mean, the people are people. I think Z&G was in the start. You kind of like had to know who Z&G was or what it was. I think to maybe find them on eBay or something. Or at the graded gem emails, you had to be like a little bit more into cards to know how to submit through graded gem. Whereas now, like anyone could just go to GameStop and just submit right to GameStop. So you were kind of just like dealing with people that knew a little bit more. I think PSA is kind of the opposite, especially it kind of just catches anyone on eBay who wants to buy any trading card. There's like 150,000 active listings or something. So like if there's a card listed, like the PSA Vault's going to have a copy of it basically, and so you're kind of dealing with anyone from like any walk of life. It's kind of nuts. So you get like a lot of like the questions where like you can tell they just have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, but that's fine. Like I don't really care about that. Honestly, the biggest frustrations are just working in like a corporate environment. Like if you're not cut out for it, it's very different than say working up in the loft or the attic or whatever with James, right? Where it's a 2-person job really. Like the day-to-day stuff at least. And if I think that we're shipping stuff incorrectly, then like fix it. If I think that our scans are bad, then fix it. And that would just kind of happen naturally over time. With like process improvement. If you think that titling is bad at PSA, well, like you're gonna have to talk to the engineers, and the engineers are busy for the next 3 months because they're trying to like launch a feature, and that's like definitely I think the hardest thing for me is coming from like a very like startup-y environment where we didn't have an engineer. We just had a couple people. Yeah, that would definitely be my biggest gripe is just the corporate difference between that and a startup. But that's it, really.
When you were doing more of the consignment stuff, were there companies that you look to for how all that stuff should work, or how, or at least like you want to do it differently than these people, or did you see consignment spaces pop up while you guys were doing your thing that were like, wow, they're doing this thing that's really cool, let's try and figure out how to implement that? Like were you constantly sort of comparing yourselves to competitors that were showing up?
Yeah, so I mean, again, like my example was just like Probstein for the longest time. Their titles were terrible, in my opinion. I think that like a good title and a good image is like the most important thing on the listing, and I just felt like their titles were awful. So it was kind of like, how can we do better than that? And something honestly that I thought about a lot is we would talk about if we wanted to accept sports or not. We did some sports sometimes, like very rarely. It was something that we advertised. If you're going to send in like a first edition base set Charizard with like a Michael Jordan rookie, like we'll take the Jordan, but I kind of realized if I list this Jordan, I'm going to title it the same way that Probstein is titling Pokemon, which is you're like reading it from the label, and maybe you're going to eBay and typing in the card and kind of like seeing if you catch like the right keywords that other people are using. Like, do you put Hall of Fame in the title of a Jordan rookie? Do you put HOF? Do you put rookie? Do you put RC? These terms. And so I think that made us not want to list because we saw what it looks like when a company who doesn't know the product is selling the product. So that was that was definitely a comparison that we looked to a lot. Was how do we just like stay better, listing quality than a lot of like the big names at the time. And like a lot of like their images were really poor. It's like, how do we do better than that? How do we ship faster than them? How do we do all this faster than them? And then there was a company called Arizona TCG that kind of popped up, and they were in the same town as us, which was kind of crazy because the town only had like 60,000 people or something. And they were just doing Pokemon consignment, like the same as us, which was kind of nuts. And yeah, we looked at them. I don't think we like took too much from them. but like we saw that you could like create an account on their website, and I don't really know what that was going to be helpful for because I mean I think we just chose not to go that way because we would rather be like more lean, and it's like way easier not to build a website that has like accounts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean we saw that they were doing it. We also saw their consignment rates, which we knew they had to be losing money on. Because they were like a brand new eBay store that had like 12 feedback, and they were offering like lower than eBay rates, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I appreciated the hustle. I like trying to like really buy some market share, but yeah, I mean, it was a lot of looking at people and just kind of hoping that we could do better. But certain things like Rusty had a video where he showed off his like scanner, his like Epson scanner that had like a little cardboard cutout thing that he put in,
Yeah, like a
like
guide
an
thing.
epoxy thing, and then you could like put it in 4 cards at a time. And it's like, okay, easy. Like let's that easy. Like what are we talking about? Let's do that. Like now we can scan 4 cards at once. Now you have to figure out like how to manage images when you're scanning 4 cards at once and stuff, but that was pretty easy. Um, and then I would watch. There was like a DC Sports news clip or something that I watched like 12 times because you know we would store all of the cards, and we're like, there's got to be a better way. Like this seems kind of crazy. Like it's manageable and you could scale this, I think, very well, but like for some reason, like we both just thought like there's a better way. And then we saw this clip of DC Sports getting like interviewed or something on the news, and it showed like all of their inventory and like how they managed it, and it was exactly what we were doing just about. And I was like, oh, okay, so we kind of like landed on the same answer, so that's pretty helpful. um, so yeah, no, I would definitely look up like these companies like behind the scenes and stuff just to see if there was like any weird news clips of them, and
Yeah.
sometimes there were, but normally not, just to see if like there was something I could take away from it to try and catch up a little bit. Because like I was just a grocery, stock and shelves guy. Like I didn't know like inventory management and order fulfillment and stuff. Like I didn't know the right way to do it. So there's a lot of just looking at very like traditional, honestly, like warehouse management. Like how do you pick orders? Like going to YouTube, like how is a warehouse set up? How is an employee meant to go create orders or pick orders and pull orders? How do you do that? Videos of Burbank sports cards, and like how are their pickers grabbing orders? Like what does this look like? And a lot of it kind of just didn't really work for what we were doing. But I mean, you kind of have to carve it out yourself because um, it's it's tough when you are looking for help on this thing and you're selling 3,000 cards a week, and you're typing in like high volume, like some eBay problem or some order fulfillment problem, and it's like high volume eBay seller, and I fill in the blank with whatever the issue is: refunds, cancellations, order tracking, whatever. And you'll find a thread and you're, oh, this is helpful. And they're like, yeah, I sell a lot of stuff on eBay. I sell about 3 items a week, and here's how I keep track of my inventory. And it's like, oh my God, like that's so not helpful. Like, that's great for them. Like that is a lot of stuff per week for most people, like 3 items a week or 10 items a week, whatever it is. But like that is not anywhere near what we're doing. So like the answers aren't helpful.
Yeah.
And that was something, trying to like get little bits and pieces from, usually not eBay sellers, usually like warehouses,
Yeah. I think DC Sports is one that I was really impressed with. I've only used them once or twice, but they have a back end, like you set up your account like on their
Yeah.
website and stuff, and it's a really comprehensive. Like they must have spent a lot of money building out their website
Yeah.
to handle all of that. But when you work at a consignment place and you see the most expensive cards in the hobby come through, every couple weeks,
Yeah.
do you get just completely desensitized to like the shock and awe of a first edition Charizard? At this point, are you just like, yeah, another one? or is there always a little bit of like giddy, schoolboy that's like, oh, a first edition Charizard?
Yeah, so there's certain things that are like always exciting to see.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you could look at my camera roll. Like if you just type in like Pokemon card into my iPhone and like whatever AI just kind of, it knows what a Pokemon card is. Um, when I first went to help James out that week, I probably took 20 pictures of cards where I was like, whoa, like a PSA 10 Evolutions Charizard, like that's hard to hit. Or like, whoa, first edition base set Charizard, like, and I'm sending out, people's graded gem returns. Um, and then it turned into like one card a week and then like one card a month. And then I probably went like 6 months or more without taking a picture of any card that came across because, yeah, you just get very desensitized to it. But then, you get stuff like, trophy cards or I had a PSA 10 first edition and unlimited Lugia coming at the same time. And that was like the craziest thing. Like that's my favorite card that exists. It's kind of like a cornerstone memory of mine when I was a kid with Pokemon was the first edition, Neo Genesis Lugia. And holding, first edition and unlimited PSA 10s in my hand at the same time was like, whoa, this is it. This can't be beat. And then I also really love the 2016 Rocket Special Case full art promos. So whenever I see those, even if it's at like a card show, I'm always just like, can I look at those? Can I hold those? No, cool. Put it back. But yeah, it's generally desensitizing. I think after enough time, after enough grails have kind of like gone across your desk, it kind of loses a lot of the appeal. But at least for like Pokemon stuff, right? Like there's always going to be stuff that I am excited about, but yeah, most of the time I don't really feel too much, especially now that it's like remote and it's just like scans of cards, right? So like
Yeah.
you can do the same thing if you want. Just look on eBay, PSA 10 first edition base of Charizard, and you'll see what I see. So, yeah.
What sort of things were you, because I can imagine if you work and you see all these hundreds of cards sell every single week, that you're picking up on trends, you're seeing flip ideas, you're doing all of that because you're seeing it firsthand. What sort of things do you think that you were uniquely privy to that maybe the average person like myself or someone who doesn't track as much, what sort of knowledge were you gaining through the process that other people didn't know or didn't get to as quickly?
I think a big thing that I really loved was non-hollow first edition commons and uncommons. I mean, that's redundant saying non-hollow, but just like non-hollow cards, like WotC stuff specifically, Japanese era WotC, or Japanese WotC era stuff. That is again commons and uncommons, non-hollow rares. If most Japanese stuff, anyway, and even just like just like the real weird niche stuff, I loved it, and most people weren't submitting any of that like through Graded Gem. It was mostly just like closet collections, right? So like unlimited 5 through 7, maybe an 8, Polyraths and Nido Kings and stuff, just like the classic binder collection. Maybe some Charizards that hit a 4 or a 5 if you're lucky, and I just loved like getting value out of stuff that most people saw no value in. So like buying at full market price, first edition Jungle Packs, and just almost having no way of losing money was so much fun for a period of time, because like people just weren't on it. People were just like opening modern stuff and grading that, or opening their closets and pulling out binders and sending off their beat up, childhood collections. you could pull, like jungle was the go-to. That's what I was doing. I bought like probably 10 total packs of first edition jungle at just full price, and just there's some value in my mind in like opening the pack. Like that's fun. Like there's some value in that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, Pikachu, Jigglypuff, Clefairy maybe. I don't know. But you have Cubone. You have like so many commons and uncommons in that set that were worth so much money in a 10, and the prices of the packs just like didn't move. They kind of like went up with everything else during COVID. Like everything went up, but you could just hit a Pikachu and it pays for the pack. It's not including your rare. It's not, if you hit a holo, it's not including that. It's not including, the Jigglypuff or the Cubone that you got, or the Tauros, which is $100 or whatever it was at the time. That's stuff that I still look at. It's just harder for me to justify. It's like my favorite stuff to grade. Like if I get a 500 card submission back and there's not a single, holo in that bunch, I love it. I love it so much. I have a little box of just hundreds and hundreds of like Neo 1 through 4, just mint commons and uncommons. It's just like my favorite thing to like look through. It's all sleeved up. I just love it. And it'll eventually, make its way to PSA probably, because you're probably going to be the only guy with like I'm just making like a Neo 3, I don't Teddy Ursa or something, Neo 2 Teddy Ursa PSA 10. And someone wants to buy it and you're the only one, so you could list it for $120 and someone will, give it enough time, someone will buy it. So that was my favorite thing. I only saw a couple people, submit through either graded gem or through consignment, just, large quantities of that type of stuff, which when I did see it, I took some extra time flipping through those, commons, those PSA 10 commons. And I got some people on the, I think Mertz maybe. I got him on some Japanese baits at starter deck hype, because that stuff, again, those starter decks are still $500. I think it's the craziest. I shouldn't even be talking about it. I think it's the craziest thing. Packs cost as much as the starter decks. Starter decks come with guaranteed holos. The commons in a PSA 10 are like 70 or 80 or more. It comes with like 30 cards plus a bunch of energies, which are trash, but like that stuff I love. I just can't get enough of like a PSA return that comes back and it's PSA 10 Japanese base set, commons and uncommons. I just over the moon. Love that stuff.
Nice. There are a couple questions that I've been asking everybody that's come on. And I didn't prep you on this, so hopefully you can think on the fly a little bit. So one of them is a hot take, and the other one is an act of kindness. So either something that's happened to you, something you did for someone in the hobby, or something that you witnessed in the hobby between two people. So if whichever one you can think of first, hit me, and then we'll go to the other one.
Yeah, so an act of kindness. I mean, there was a lot of stuff in the COVID era. I mean, I don't really like go outside anymore, so I don't really know what the Pokemon world is like outside right now. I hear it's pretty bad, but COVID times it was pretty bad as well. Just trying to find any product. You would maybe find like a little like pre-built deck or something at like a Walmart or Target. There was in my area, we had the Pokemon vending machines, which I think are now kind of like all around the country. It was kind of a novel thing at the time, but now I think most people have them. People would line up and get really aggressive for a period of time. People like shouting at each other and getting mad that someone cut them, or like, hey, I was in my car waiting since 4 a.m. And there was this dude, I don't know his name. I follow him on Instagram, but I think he moved to like Taiwan or something. He was just this like Taiwanese kid or whatever, and he was like real quiet, like everyone's like yelling at each other real mad, and I'm just sitting there like kind of watching this, like, dude, this is crazy. Like people are like threatening to like beat each other up over Pokemon cards, and this kid just like pulled me aside. He was like 18 at the time maybe. He's like, hey, do you want this like box that I bought? It was just like some blister pack of like Burning Shadows or Cosmic Eclipse or something. And I was like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, yeah, just MSRP. Like I got like 3 of them. Like this is too much. Like people are going too nuts. And I was like, dude, that's crazy. So I think I just paid him like whatever resale was on it, which was probably like 3 times MSRP, just because like I thought that was so cool. That him and I, like everyone was just kind of like yelling at each other, and I think that we recognized that we were like maybe the only normal people in that grocery store lobby, and we just kind of like connected over that. And if we ever saw that there was like a restock, we would just hit each other up like, yeah, this Target just like got more stuff. It's it's the move. Head there. And that was a cool little thing. That was something that I really appreciated. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a good time.
So, hot take.
I have so many. Like so many of them are just not even like illustration rares. If they were, and there's no way that no one can disagree with me. If this was any other alternate universe, we're in the only version of this world where an illustration rare is like $300 or $400 or $200. These are cards that if this was 2023 or 2022, these would be $60 PSA 10s at absolute most. There's no way. I also think the amount of new people in this hobby is scary. I think if you look at r/Pokemon TCG, r/Poke grading, r/anything, it is so full of new people where all they know how to do is pull a card and point some scanner app at it that tells them what PSA grade it's going to get or how centered their card is without knowing what anything means. And they're going to get so burned so bad. GameStop working with PSA is like the biggest thing I think PSA has ever done. I think it's like the smartest thing they could have ever done if they wanted to make so much money. I think for most people, it is going to crush them. I think most people are going to get absolutely destroyed by submitting through PSA, through GameStop, because they just have no idea what they're doing. If you look at any of these subreddits or any place where a new collector kind of finds themselves, it's people getting PSA 8s or 6s and having absolutely no clue how any of this happened. I think people are going to get absolutely destroyed. I think people are going to be in incredible amounts of debt to enjoy a hobby that they don't actually know how to enjoy because they don't know what they're looking at. And if this stuff dies in like 3 months, which my gut is that we are in for a bumpy ride in the next 3 to 6 months, I think people are going to lose their absolute minds because they paid $1,000 for some ugly ass Umbreon that if it was any other time in history, it would be a $200 card. Also, forgot about this, that Terapagos, whatever that card was that was expensive from Stellar Crown or whatever, that is a $12 card. I don't care what that, I don't know what that price is now. That was like over $100 card or something. Like when that was like, people are, that's the chase. Who are you talking? Who are you trying to convince? That is insane. That is,
yeah.
I think the most egregious Magikarp, whatever. That's probably shilled to the moon. That was probably some crazy shenanigans there. I don't know. I think that art being like, it's actually bad art, which means it's good. I don't know. I love Komiya. I don't know if that was Komiya or not, but that was someone who draws like Komiya. That Terapagos being expensive is the absolute single craziest thing I've ever seen in Pokemon since forever. I think that maybe is that my hot take? Terapagos EX or VMAX or V or whatever garbage that card was being expensive is the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I've said with the whole illustration rare thing for a while now on live streams and stuff that they are the most like insanely inflated, overpriced cards, and if people are buying, PSA 10 ice cubes for $250, like you're in for a seriously rude awakening at some point.
Yeah.
Because it makes literally no sense, just like you said.
Yeah, and I'm not super interested in like policing how people spend their money. I am just, I have the belief system that you should know what you're looking at. The amount of people, if you look at any place where new people kind of gather, like r/Pokemon TCG or something, you'll
Yeah.
see someone who spends $1,500 or $2,000 on the new Umbreon PSA 10, and then their post is this real? Is this a real card? You should absolutely know 100% if that's a real card if you're spending that much money on it. It's insane. Also, Terapagos EX was $151. It is now $50. I would put my life on the line that in 12 months, that's going to be a $21 card. There's no universe that someone that spent $150 on that knew what they were doing. There's no way that that's an experienced, seasoned collector. Crazy to me.
It's one of those things that, like, we, for some reason, I feel like mentally put in our heads that every new set needs to have an expensive chase. Therefore, we're just, if a set doesn't have any good chase, we'll just choose a card.
Yeah.
And it happened to be Terapagos for that.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's there are quite a few sets in the Scarlet Violet era that are just like, okay, let's just pick a card that's going to be expensive, I guess, because there isn't much going on in this set or that set.
I think that's seeing so many of these things it just makes me feel like I'm going crazy. Maybe that's my hot take. I'll just boil it down. The centering app, whatever you get, it's trash. Don't use it. Use your eyeballs. That's my actual firm. That's my hot take. Never use a centering app. It's a waste of your time. Just use your eyes. If you look at a card and it looks off-centered, it's off-centered. If you look at a card and it looks off-centered, but it has a 54 or whatever, 56 to 50, I don't know, whatever centering works, whatever it's allowed. I don't mess with the numbers on centering. I've never understood it. I've never understood top. That's left, right. I don't know what that means. I can tell you that the right is bigger than the left or whatever. I don't know what that means. But if it looks off-center to you, just with your naked eye, the first thing you see when you look at that card is that it looks off-centered, don't pull out your app to see if it is or isn't actually off-centered, because the grader who's looking at it is going to look at it and they're going to go, oh, that's off-centered. And they're not going to look at whatever computer program is telling them, like, this is actually centered, within parameters, because graders are given a certain amount of freedom, that's why we have humans grading our stuff, is for the freedom of the human. And if they gut instincts say that's an off-centered card, they're not going to be like, well, the robot tells me that it is centered, even though it is clearly off-centered. I looked at a card yesterday that was obviously off-centered, and I was like, you know what? And so for the first time ever, I put it into like a centering app thing, and it said that it was centered enough to hit a 10. It's never going to hit a 10. You could submit it 100 times. It's never going to hit a 10. That's my hot take. Centering apps gotta go. If you're using a centering app, you probably don't know what you're doing. That's my belief. Just look at the card. Use your eyeballs.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. A lot of people that'll post like, I'll do like a PSA grade return or whatever, and they'll be like, "Oh, what pre-grade kit did you use?" And I'm like, "What? I don't use a kit. I don't use anything. It's literally just, if there's a speck of dirt on there, I lick my finger and I take the little piece of dirt off, and then I will, make sure it's centered, and I'll send it off." Like, it's not rocket science. People make it way more complicated than it needs to be, for sure.
Yeah.
We have some comments and questions in the chat. So, Ern, haven't caught up yet. Just came to say that Kam sucks. Love you, dude. Congrats on the success. And then we have Greeny. Miss you, Kam. Hope you're thriving.
I miss you too. I am not.
Hoodoo is wondering if you wear socks at home.
If I'm feeling fancy right now, I'm sockless under the table.
There you go. Why is Hooters your favorite restaurant?
Hooters is my favorite restaurant because of the atmosphere and the ambiance, and also because that's the only place that Green Shiz or Old School Pokemon will eat. They have a strict Hooters diet, so if I ever want to, hang out with them, that's where I have to go.
Nice. I missed the first hour, so don't repeat if you answered similarly. Last thing you've graded for PC non-Pokemon card
Last thing that I've graded
for your PC.
I have a couple things. So most of my collection at this point is on my wall over there and is in like a little graded display up there.
Okay. Yeah.
Most of it at this point is just like skateboarding stuff because most Pokemon stuff I just don't care to have because I've seen it all. And illustration rares I think are the best art that exists in Pokemon, but I'm not paying $200 for a PSA 10, and I also want PSA 10s. I don't really care for PSA 9s and less, just because there's a million of every card that exists. Nothing is rare. If you want something that feels a little rare, buy a PSA 10. I don't know. That's my whatever. That's my collector thing. So it's a lot of skateboarding stuff. The most recent thing I've graded is actually at PSA right now. I worked with the research team, and this is something that anyone can do. I've done it. I did it before working at PSA. You could submit a research request through the CRC, and that just kind of like lets the researchers know like that you want something to be graded by PSA. And I wanted. Let me grab it really quick.
Yeah.
So Big Brother magazine was a magazine in the 90s that kind of was the foundation of Jackass. So this is one of the Big Brother magazines from, I don't know, 1993, I think. And in this magazine, in the sealed, these came sealed, you got like a little stack of trading cards that came inside of it, which was kind of sick.
Oh, cool.
No one really graded them. SGC just started grading them. And yeah, you get like 13 random cards out of a set list or a checklist of like 33 cards or something. And yeah, PSA didn't grade them. And it's not because I work at PSA that they got graded. It's just because I submitted the request and I really wanted it. So, like for example, you have Rob Dyrdek from like whatever, all the MTV shows that exist.
Oh yeah.
This has got to be his earliest card that exists, and you can grade it now. I got really lucky, and when I opened mine, I got a Rodney Mullen, who's like my main like PC basically. Like that's who I collect. And he's like the inventor, for anyone who doesn't know, like almost everything in skateboarding that matters. Like the flat ground ollie or the kick flip or the heel flip or the pop shove it or the impossible. Like any skateboarding thing is kind of built off of what he invented. So I got really lucky and I got a Rodney Mullen out of this. So now that we can grade them, I sent it off and that's still at PSA. So
nice.
Yeah, these are extremely hard to find. Like this magazine sealed, I looked for like 3 years maybe trying to find one, and I just got one a couple weeks ago.
Hell yeah.
And so the timing worked out like perfectly, like because more than a year ago, I opened my research request with the research team to like look into this and see what they could find. And I think a big thing was me buying this and like having it like, hey, look, this does exist. Like I finally found one after all these years, and I can open it. I opened it up on YouTube. There's a video of me doing it and kind of going through, the checklist and what exists. So it's a really cool set. There's a Tony Hawk card in here. It's not his first card, but yeah. For some reason, there's like a Charles Barkley card, even though he has nothing to do with skateboarding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool little set. It's really fun. It's extremely rare to find a lot of these in nice condition. So
That's awesome.
be on the lookout if you care about skateboarding. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's the most recent thing that I've added, and I'm just kind of, most of these people are pretty niche, so they don't have a lot of cards for them. So whenever something new pops up, I buy it just because I don't know, I'm running out of stuff to buy for these people.
Cool.
Yeah.
Question from Greeny: do you still have your mannequin?
For sure not how you spell mannequin, by the way. That is
That's
sounding it out as he goes. Yeah, she's upstairs.
Okay, nice.
She's wearing,
Does your mannequin have a name?
Yeah, legs.
Legs. Okay, awesome. Interesting question here. In your opinion, should PSA grade booster boxes or ETBs?
Probably not, because that feels like a massive liability just from like a business perspective. But if it was something that they did, I would want to be a part of it, because I think that there's certainly an untapped market there. I mean, you have like BBCE, but I wouldn't. I'll hold my thoughts on BBCE. I don't think that they're the most reputable
G.I. Joe.
business. Yeah, I mean, like, that's crazy that happened, right? So,
Yeah,
are we just gonna forget that ever happened, guys? I mean,
I
like,
guess
what are we
so.
doing? How are we still using this company? So I think that there are ways that you can authenticate these boxes, further than just having some guy who's handled a lot of boxes or ETBs, handle these. Like, I think that part of it would be, that the company that like scans the boxes and does all that, like, I don't really know who they are or what they're about. I don't think anyone really uses them. I saw Golden sold some box at some point, like a Team Rocket box that was scanned by them.
Yeah.
I think you just, if you're PSA, if you do want to authenticate and grade booster boxes or ETBs, I think you just have to do that. I think you just have to scan it, like, actually really know that it's legitimate, as much as you can. The same level of confidence that you have with a sealed pack or a sealed, well, with a sealed pack or with like any trading cards, or any autographed, whatever they grade, or authenticate, have that same level of confidence, which I think just comes through scanning.
Yeah.
And throw your little PSA sticker on it. Maybe don't even grade it. I think that the big thing is authentication. I don't think most people would care about the grade of a booster box or an ETB.
Yeah.
And just, put your little PSA approved sticker on it. I think it's like kind of archaic and barbaric how Fanatics does it with booster boxes, where they open the box and reseal it up, even though that is how Rusty did it, with his first edition base box. But yeah, I don't know. I think you just throw it through a fancy machine, and then no one knows what's inside of it except for the guy who scanned it, who's paid too much money to want to say anything and jeopardize his position. So
Yeah, I think we're getting closer and closer for sure to being able to do something like that. I think, is it VGC? Wait, VGC? Is that the company that grades video games? VGC?
there's CGC and VGA.
VGA. Well, doesn't VGA grade like pops, and they grade like Lego sets, and like they'll grade like big boxes of things?
I think whatever like their parent company is, but maybe it's VG. I think it's CGA, Collectible Grading Authority. Because I think it's like Video Game Authority. I don't know. I don't really use VGA too often, but I think, yeah, their parent company, I think, just grades legitimately anything you give to them.
Yeah.
Which is like a joke people make about like CGC or even PSA, but like, I think VGA will legitimately grade anything you give to them, as long as they believe that it's authentic. So, I've seen them grade like all sorts of crazy stuff. So I'm sure that they would do a booster box. I don't know why they wouldn't.
Yeah, I feel like with the scanning technology and stuff, we'll get to a point eventually where I feel like a company will be confident enough to scan a box, put it in acrylic, slap it authentic or whatever, and allow you to sell it. Especially, I mean, these things are expensive as hell. So it honestly nowadays, if I was ever wanting to buy like a $20,000 booster box, like I would require them to scan it. I'd be like, you better scan it because I want to keep this thing sealed and it needs to be legit. So yeah.
I would be in the same boat, which like it sucks that it happened in my opinion. Like I kind of liked the the less knowledge. But once it's out there, like I'm glad that people are aware of it. But yeah, now that it's out there, I would need to know. I would need it to be scanned. But before it existed, I would never have wanted to know like what's inside my box.
Yeah. Well, I think we could wrap it up here, Cam. Appreciate you being here, man. And if you could tell everyone again just where they can find you and support you and stuff, and then we'll call it a night.
Sounds good. Yeah, so Instagram is kind of where I hang out the most for card related stuff, and that's my card related Instagram is Cardbates, so it's KARDBAS. It's not easy on purpose, and my personal Instagram is Kambates, KAMBAS. So that's where you find me.
Awesome. And thank you very much for coming by and being a part of this month. I appreciate it. It was great catching up. And yeah, I hope we hear from you more soon.
I think so.
That'd be awesome. So guys, tomorrow I will be talking to Peak That Chew, and that will unfortunately be at 10 p.m. starting. I'm starting at my freaking bedtime. It's gonna suck. The conversation is gonna be great. Starting at 10 is gonna suck. But yeah, I appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you guys tomorrow for the Peak That Chew interview at 10 p.m. Eastern. And thank you very much. Thanks again, Cam. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys later.